selector, shot like this could have never miss.
Hello and welcome to R.O.A.R. My name's Tom Latcham and you will know me as the host of R.O.A.R, the 90s Rave Podcast. Well, this is a brand new spin-off show which will run alongside our big name fortnightly interviews with 90s rave legends, which I hope you've been enjoying watching and listening to so far. In R.O.A.R, we'll be discussing and debating the 90s rave scene and some of the amazing moments and memories that it threw up. We'll be running some fun competitions and features, as well as interviewing artists connected to the 90s rave scene that perhaps don't fit quite onto the main podcast. If you want to get in touch with anything at all, perhaps to come on the show or just share a memory that we can discuss in future episodes of R.O.A.R, you can get in touch hello@the90sravepodcast.co.uk, or you can head to our social media channels. To kick off the first episode of R.O.A.R, though, we're going to be taking a look at growing rumours of a Helter Skelter comeback. It's certainly divided opinion whether the biggest, one of the biggest raves in history, certainly in the 90s, should come back and in what form. And to discuss this, joining me now is MC Magika. He's a man who's played quite a number of Skelters in his time, and he appears to be very much in the know about what's happening. So let's say hello. Hello, mate. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
I'm all right. Cheers for joining us on this first edition of R.O.A.R. It's a spin-off show to the main 90s Rave Podcast, and I couldn't think of a better guest to have on as our first guest than you, Mr. Magika. I don't call you Mr. Magika, or I think he's not cool at all. So you probably you're probably better off not being called Mr. Magika.
Yeah. Let's start again.
What do you want me to call you?
G.
Okay, G. But G, thank you for joining us on this first edition of R.O.A.R. And the reason I've got you on is because we want to talk about the Helter Skelter rumours. Rumours of a reunion, the first reunion in years and years and years since back in the day. And you seem to be very much involved in these rumours. So that's why I wanted to get you on to talk about it. But there have been loads of rumours before, G. What's different now?
I think the things, when you talk about rumours in the past, they were rumours. And it was basically, that the page on Facebook was started by a fan called Sean Bertie, rest in sleep. He passed away, good 2 to 3 years ago now. And he approached me at least 5 years ago plus and said, look, can you help me out with this page? I just want to try and create some nostalgia and some memories. And, for those who know me, I've been proactive from the start. I'm proactive still now. I'm heavily involved in a lot of things. I'm very passionate. Helter Skelter was a big part of me and what I did and et cetera, in my life. And I was like, yeah, I'll gladly help you, develop the page and build on it. And what we set out with the page was, we've probably made, I don't know, probably people have misinterpreted when we started the page. That we said, look, we're going to try and campaign, build up the momentum, build up the hype, and see if we can get Dave out, And that was the idea. And then, and to entice people to support the page. And Dave's always been kept in the loop. He's always kept in the loop. You've got to say hello to my friend. Oh, he's gone. I was just about to show my cat. He's just ran off.
What's your cat called?
Yeah, Jasper. He's just done one. So
never work with children or animals.
Dave's always. Yeah, I know, mate. They always say, Dave's always been kept in the loop. He's always been kept, up to date with what was going on the page, the support.
And what's he been said? What has he said about that historically? Because it seems you went out with him the other day, didn't you? You went out. There was a picture of you guys out for dinner. He clearly hasn't done it in the past. Otherwise, he would have done it, despite being kept in the loop. So what's changed now?
Look, in the past, right? Dave's always categorically said no, right? Dave's also been offered lots of deals, money on the table for people to buy the brand. And like I said on the video on the page the other day, this man doesn't need to do it, doesn't want to do it in terms of sell the brand. He loves what he did. Him and his wife, what they did with the brand, it's personal to them, as you can imagine. They put their heart and soul into it. And one thing I've got to say, for those who don't know him, this guy is a serious you know, he's a raver at heart. He started out raving like all of us. You know what I mean? He caught the bug, owned clubs, blah, blah, blah. The rest is history. But this geezer is a savvy, astute, clever, intelligent man. Yeah? And I'll tell you what, I've taken little bits from him and put them into my life. Just how he deals with people and deals with business and deals with situations. You know, and I've made mistakes in my time, and I've learned from Dave. And Dave just wasn't interested. And then the other part was, you know, the other part was he was like, look, you know, I'm too busy with my business. I don't want to go too much into his personal life.
What's Dave up to these days?
Well, in a nutshell, I'll just briefly put it: serious property guy. That's it. Like serious.
That's the same as James Perkins, who was the Fantasia promoter.
Mate, James Perkins, you know what? On another, mate, I saw some of the things that he was up to. That kid was on another level. I don't know if you looked at
it's insane. His place is insane.
Dude, did you go?
No, I haven't been yet, but that is the name of this podcast. I tell you, we're going to try. I've got a friend. Mate, we've got a mutual friend, so I'm hopeful to go to his place in Oxfordshire. It looks.
Mate, I went to this like stately pile. Not just one, two. And I walked in, and we're going off the subject, but this is, you know what? I walked in, and I'm not joking. This place was like a museum.
Yeah, mate, I know. It's got like stuffed animals everywhere, right?
Dude, yeah, stuffed animals. And then he had a live, like, picture, and it was like a real human. I was like, mate, how long's he been up there for? and he was like, he's just been up there for like, you know, a few days. I went, you what? I said, it's not even a party. What's the special occasion? Why is he up there? And he was like, this geezer was just like hoisted into this picture. And then, yeah.
Yeah, well, these people are living in another world, G. So, right, so listen, oh, hello, Jasper. How you doing, buddy? Does he say anything? No.
No, I didn't say nothing.
He's very shy. So the thing is, you know, Dave, obviously a successful property developer. What's changed then in his mind that he thinks, you know what, I'm gonna consider this? Because as well, it doesn't look, I'm no businessman, but it doesn't seem like the smartest time to be starting up a rave, given that there are no raves.
No, listen, it's not about starting up a rave. This is what people are getting mixed. I saw people saying there's not going to be a rave. It's not about now.
Right.
People are still planning, right? As well as being like a musician and an MC, I promote, mate, and all my parties. Obviously, we cancelled them all this year, and we've moved them to next year.
Right.
If they happen next year, great. If they don't, they get moved along again. It's simple as that. Right. But people are still going to be planning. People are still going to be prepping.
Well, actually, there's an argument to be said, G, isn't there, that actually this isn't a bad time to plan a big rave like that, because everyone's going to be absolutely clucking for a rave.
Well, yeah. Listen, people are going to be clucking for raves, but look, let's get it straight. This ain't no rave. This ain't no normal rave. Yeah, and this isn't about competition. And it's not about that, but this is going to blow out every form of rave event you can think of that's established. This is just going to, because of what it does, it resonates, it appeals to people, you know, it's close at people's heart. It's going to do more than just, you know, it's not.
Well, can I just ask you then? And this sounds like this is happening because so at the moment it's been a bit rumored. You know, you've seen Slipmat, Groove Rider, a few of those guys tweeting about it or putting messages about it. Yeah, really supporting it. Now
the list is massive.
That seems like a concerted effort. This seems like there's something to it, but we haven't actually had it confirmed that Dave is up for doing this. Is Dave up for doing this?
Well, all I'm going to say is this: look, there is a lot of dialogue going on between, especially with me and Dave. I would love to screenshot stuff that he's saying, but you know what? We can't do it like that. It's not done like that. And it's something that he said to me today. He said, I will come out when I need to come out. Are you with me? I will come out and show my face and say something when I need to come out, because that's the best way that we're going to get impact. So the bottom line is this. Before, he was saying no, adamantly. 2, he was too busy. Now, things have changed. He's at a stage of his life, he's got past the 50 milestone, things that he wants to slow certain things down, and he knows sun's going to go down on certain things. And I keep reminding him, I said, Dave, you can't leave this 5-10 years, bruv. Yeah, people are going to get like on. We're at a time now where a lot of us, you know, that were there from the era from back in the day, we can still come out and
just about.
you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
said, also, it's going to be a special thing from my side, from even promoting, even being involved in old school events. So I co-promoted the last 3 or 4 flashbacks. I did the Quest reunion. I'm doing the Quest and Amazon reunion next year. I'll play on a lot of old school things. And I said, listen, mate, the nostalgia from this event is going to be beautiful, because you're going to get all those people that came out 40 plus, some of them touching 60, bless them. And then, you're going to get them coming with their kids, their teenagers. Do you know what I'm saying? And I said, it's going to be a beautiful affair. And I said, if you're going to do it, you need to do it now. And I think one of the things why he's communicating with me, he's seen how passionate I am. He's seen how proactive I am. He's seen that I'm actually doing a lot of stuff. Love me or hate me, bruv, I'll do a lot of stuff. And I work hard. That's the bottom line. And then all of a sudden, I'm going down for dinner to Banbury. And I went down and we sat down and we had a good catch up, and it was lovely to hear what's been going on and vice versa. I'll tell you what, mate, his life, I could talk about me, I could talk about anyone from the music scene, but let's talk about him. His life, man, bloody hell, that would be a movie. The things he was telling me that was going on and that's been gone on over the few years, I was like, wow. But the magic words were, I'm in a place where I can think about this. I can consider it. I can plan something, and I'm interested. And Dave wouldn't have me going down to see him in Banbury and taking me out for dinner and sitting down and having a conversation. And the bottom line is, there's lots of conversations that are happening. We're talking about a lot of things in terms of the event and a possible event. And that's something that we're working on. And, and as I said to Dave, I said, you need to come out and show your face and just show your support to the mass support that you're getting right now. So that's something that he's going to address, because it's quite important for him to do that. In terms of an event, all I can say is this: he's in a different place now compared to before. Before, it was just a rumour. There was nothing to say that it was going to be an event. All it was, we had a page, join our page, we're going to try this crusade to try and make an event happen. That's all it was. It was nothing else. And I think people started jumping, Helter Skelter, and all of a sudden it turned into something. It was never like this. It was never like this. Dave's very overwhelmed with the support, especially, with Slipmatt's post last week. He was very, very overwhelmed and very taken aback. And he sent me a message the other day. I can't even say it because it's just personal and private, but that shows you that, you know what? I think patience is a virtue.
Well, there's been a lot of chat, G, around on all of the pages around what sort of form this rave would take, and people saying, well, it's got to be the acts that played at the time and nothing else. There's some people saying, no, you've got to bring it up and make it modern. What people can debate this till the cows come home, but in your mind, what do you see it being?
Do you know what? The only thing I've said to Dave, I said it doesn't need to be a festival where you've got different brands. The brand should just be Helter Skelter. It should be everything that sort of personifies, Helter Skelter. And I said you should definitely have, as well as sort of celebrating the old school legacy and part of Helter Skelter, you should kind of embrace some of the new. So that definitely should be something that you should look at. So whether it be, on the D&B side, that should be looked at. And I think there should be. I think there should be an embracing of the future, because you're going to be appealing now, not just to the crowd that came yesteryear, but you're going to come to the crowd to the future. Because
but that's fine with drum and bass, because drum and bass is incredibly popular, but hardcore is dead on its ass. So, what are you doing in that regard?
Well, I think, listen, he knows where he wants to go and what he wants to do. And when it comes to doing it, he will do what he feels. And I believe, looking at it, and even on a sort of a professional mindset, I think whatever he does, I think it's going to work, because I just think it's the nostalgia of the brand.
How many tickets do you think it can sell?
It depends, mate. It depends on what you do and what you build with it. I think personally, from being proactive over recent years and doing a lot of prolific events, I think he could definitely sell an event of, I think a 3,000 event, 4,000 event would be a piece of cake.
And
I don't think it'd take long at all to sell that.
No, I think I tend to agree with you there. You look at Resurrection that happened up in Scotland. Unfortunately, I didn't go. We were meant to go, and we didn't end up going. And it sounded like it was a fantastic event.
They had 16,000 people.
Well, they had. I don't know if it was 16, but it was certainly a big number in Ingerton Hall or whatever. You know,
Yeah.
so there obviously is interest. There obviously is interest in this sort of thing. Well, given that, and given that you think that it could sell, you know, 3, 4, 5,000 tickets. What's the sort of venue? The Sanctuary's obviously gone.
Well, look, what I'm saying is, I think, because we just stopped at the indoor side, I think if it was an indoor venue, I think it would sell out very, very quickly, you know, of that kind of capacity. And there are some places around geographical to that region. But I also think that if he does it right, he could do something a bit bigger. I don't know if he could get up to the energy levels. Energy 97, they got 17,000 people. Now, I definitely think with a bit of work, 10, and especially with now what's gone on and everything else, and everybody in the era and the old school and people who don't even go out raving will come out for this. He could do 10 to 15. It could happen. Now, I saw people saying, oh, but Dreamscape tried this. Listen, Dreamscape was a brand that was, you know, R.I.P. Murray, you know, was a brand that was passed on and battered from pillar to post. Loads of different promoters had it. You know, in the end, I even think Dreamscape took place in a working men's club. Do you know what I'm saying? So, different ball game. That was never going to happen. The way that come out, that was never going to happen. The writing was on the wall. That was never going to happen. I think with Skelter, it's a different ball game. It's got Dave behind it, a man of integrity and honour. He's worked really hard, very astute businessman. And I think he's got a gold, he's got a gem of a brand, which I think will resonate and rekindle and bring a lot of people out.
But Gee, of course, this is taking on an event. Any event is a risk, but taking on an event of this size, of this magnitude, when the audience is TBC, we genuinely don't know. We're sort of guessing from looking at the Facebook pages and all that sort of stuff, and we don't know. And it's inherently a risk. Isn't there a danger that it goes wrong? And if it goes wrong, it tarnishes the memory that they and the reputation that Dave and Penny built up for a very long time for being the very, very best that he said he'd never do again.
Listen,
And also in doing that, G, you are inherently linked with it. There could end up with blowback for you too. Are you prepared for that as well?
Look, at the end of the day, I've done it. Listen, this is a gambler's market, right? I've put events on for years now, and all we can do is do our best, go with what we believe in, have some faith, graft and work hard, don't leave no stones unturned, and then hopefully hope for the best. And I think there's no fear here. I think there's a lot of faith, a lot of belief, and a lot of self-belief. And then also look at the feedback, man. Look at the feedback. It went viral, and that's just not talking from the heart. That's talking from the head, looking at the movement and the activity, and then looking at the story of the brand. It didn't leave with a bad and sour taste in people's minds. It was never a case of like the Dreamscape event where people bought, 2,000 or 3,000 tickets and never got the money back. People have always been treated well with that brand. They've got good memories, fond memories, good stories. It was one of the champion king brands of our time from the rave world. It's all there. It's got everything. It's got everything for it to go and work.
And you talk about a gambler's market. If you were a betting man, what odds would you give that it's going to happen?
Mate, do you know what, mate? I won't put an odd on it. I will just say, listen, it's for him.
You've got a lovely flat there. Are you going to bet that?
Yeah, listen. It's actually a house. He will.
Even better if it doesn't happen.
Listen, yeah, I would.
Okay.
Yeah, I would.
Wow. Okay.
I would. Yeah.
And in that case, would you anticipate? Would you bet? What odds would you say? So you're pretty certain it's going to happen. Full stop. What would you think about the likelihood of it being next year or perhaps 2022?
Well, listen, that's all down to logistics now. That's all down to logistics. All I can say is there's details have been discussed about possible places and ideas and concepts and all that type of stuff. And Dave is the man with the key now. He'll decide when he wants to go. In reality, I've said, listen, 2021 would be great if it could happen. even if it's a smaller event, to test the water, like 3,000 or 4,000 people. It'd be great to do it next year. But like I said on the video the other day, and I said to Dave as well, I don't, you've got like 21, 22.
So there's the potential then, G, from what you're just saying, for not just one event, but perhaps more if it goes well.
Well, listen, there could be, because one of the conversations that we had when we met, we was like, a one-off, and he was like, well, it could be something to carry on. And like I said in the video the other day, if Dave does the event and he wants to do another one, and he encourages and opens up to a brand new market in the next generation, why not? Why not? It's not going to hurt anyone. All this talk, I try and ignore it. Oh, it's not going to be the same. Oh, it should be left behind. Come on, man. At the end of the day, right, if you don't want to go, right, just don't come. Simple as that. We'd love to see everybody there. If you don't want to go and you think it's going to be, it's not going to be the same. Oh, it's not. It should be left behind. Well, you know what to do. Chill out, stay at home. We'll send you the pay-per-view link. You can watch it on a video.
I might leave that off the flyer, though, if I was you. Hey, listen, G, it's been really good to talk to you, mate. Thank you very much for joining us. And we wish you, I think we all, not everyone's going to agree, but I think we wish you the best if you do go ahead with it. Some people won't want it to happen. Some people will. But if it does go ahead, we will all want it to work. So we wish you the very best with it. And hopefully you can come back on and you can talk to us in the future about all the developments. And obviously, clearly, MC Magika is going to be the lead MC in what? Listen, take your pick, mush.
Let's forget me for a minute. I think the next time we come back here, we bring Dave.
Oh, I agree. I'd love to. I think it'd be fantastic. We'd love to get him on. He's an elusive man, though. We've been trying to get in touch with him. So,
yeah, you ain't going to get him, mate. He's gone, mate. But you know what? If when he comes out and
he's coming on Raw.
And when he comes out and it's on, he'll come. We're going to get him here. We're going to get him here because he's good, man. I've told him you've got to connect. He's not a type of person who wants to stand in front of the camera and he's a kind of guy who's behind there. Everybody knows who he is and knows of him. But I have told him you need to connect with your people.
Good man.
And I think when the time comes, you'll hear from Dave Pratley.
Well, good man. Well, listen, we wish you all the very best with it and stay in touch with us, won't you?
I will, 100%.
Take care, buddy.
Take care. Bye-bye.
We hope you're enjoying Raw so far. Now's here where we ask for your assistance. We're a small team of normal people with normal jobs, and if you could spare us just a few quid, it'll go such a long way to helping us continue making more 90s rave-related content for you lovely lot. To do so, you just have to head to gofundme.com/the 90s Rave Podcast. That URL again, gofundme.com/the 90s Rave Podcast. Anything at all you can give will help out, and you might even be able to get your hands on some artwork designed exclusively for us by Grantus Arts, and you might even get a shout on future episodes. That URL for one final time, gofundme.com/the 90s Rave Podcast. You know what to do. So we've heard what Magika has got to say, and it sounds like, doesn't it, Helter Skelter is definitely happening. Well, let's find out what a couple of people in the rave scene think about it as we welcome Ollie Yates, who's otherwise known as DJ Thumpa, and also Paul Sturgis, who is DJ Ponder. They've both got conflicting views on this. Hello, Paul. Welcome along. Hello, Ollie. How you doing?
Hello.
Hello.
Well, let's start with Ollie. Ollie, you've heard what Magika's got to say. It's actually more definite than we probably thought before we heard the interview with Magika. He's betting his house on it. So given that it sounds like it's definitely going to happen, what do you make of it?
I think it'll happen. I think maybe not in the next year, but I think at some point over the next couple of years, I think it'll happen. I've spoken to a couple of people in the know who know a bit more than me, and they are leaning towards it happening. So I think at some point it's going to happen, and I think the time to do it, the time to organise it is now. So I'm fairly confident.
Well, you've been pretty vocal about what a good idea you think it is. Why is it that you think it's such a good idea?
Yes, well, I've had some figures today off someone about Helter Skelter actually, and I think Helter Skelter, from a business point of view, I'd say it's the biggest rave organisation from the UK in terms of tickets sold, tape packs sold. We're talking like maybe 100,000 tape packs sold over the years. Merchandise, everyone knows someone who had a Helter Skelter bomber or an MA2 at school. Everyone at school knew someone who had a Helter Skelter tape. I think from a business point of view and from a branding point of view, Helter Skelter is by far the biggest brand for rave music. They'd be crazy not to do something, if I'm honest. Talking, pounds and pence.
You're a promoter, admittedly not on the scale of Helter Skelter. But
No.
then, frankly, who is, mate? I mean, it's not a diss.
Well, no.
It's not a diss to say that you're not on the level of Helter Skelter, but you're a promoter, so you know what it is that ravers want. You would hope. You sell out your events a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Is there, you think, a real desire for this?
I think there is. I think with it being lockdown as well, I think there's so many people around my age and older that are sat at home with nothing to look forward to, no events to go to, money to burn, and all they're doing is sitting around listening to old tapes, talking memories with their friends, going on things like the Helter Skelter group on Facebook, talking about raves from 20 years ago. And I think the time to strike is now, because so many people are just sitting around with no plans. No one's got any holidays planned for next year. No one's got anything planned at the weekends for next year. And I think it's the perfect storm, really. There's just so many. I've noticed lately on social media, there's just so much nostalgia flying around. Obviously, with your podcast, I'm on a few groups on Facebook for like rave flyers and things like that. And there's people buying flyers for like raves from the 90s, just bits of paper, spending like hundreds of pounds on them just so they've got it. There's just so much flying around.
Well, this is, you're right. This is why we decided to start this podcast now. We thought there was a sitting target of people ready and waiting. But there's one thing, listening to a podcast, listening to some rave sets, and it's another getting them out and getting them to go to an event. Ollie thinks it's a good idea. He thinks it's a nostalgia kick. What's your take on it?
I think it would definitely work, because I think there's like Ollie says, there's plenty of people that do have the appetite to go out. If you look at the group, I think they've got 14,000 people on there who are all kind of championing a bit to go to a Helter Skelter. I guess my question is, what would make it different from the plethora of other classic reunion events that have taken place over the last 20 years? So why now? Why not 10 years ago, 15 years ago? I get we're in lockdown, but we also don't know what the nightlife landscape is going to look like going forward at all. We're in a completely different world now. So who knows? I think it's very up in the air.
Well, you're a promoter as well. Historically, you were the promoter of Elation, which again they were always decent crowds. Did you sell out? Did you used to sell out those, or they were pretty well attended though, weren't they?
Back at Electroworks, we had a few that sold out, or a couple that went above capacity, actually, which probably shouldn't have happened, but never mind.
Well, I think you're probably going to escape the authorities 20 odd years on. So you know what it is that ravers want. I appreciate that it's a different world really now in 2020 than it was when you were putting on events, but Magika, you heard his interview. He thinks that there'll be some modern music represented. You DJ and produce drum and bass and hardcore, but UK hardcore is it's dead, isn't it? It's pretty much dead in its arse. So when you can struggle to sell 400 tickets for a UK hardcore event, why would anybody want modern UK hardcore?
Yeah, and I think that's probably where I'm a little bit more ambivalent towards an event like Skelter coming back, because historically their events were always about combining hardcore and drum and bass, and it wasn't like they were separated in different arenas either. You'd have Nicky Blackmarket on and then Hixie on afterwards. And how is a more modern crowd going to respond to that? And if they don't do that, is it really Helter Skelter? And I think that's kind of where I'm sitting on the fence a little bit. If they're going to incorporate modern hardcore, I'd like to see them look at some of the artists like who Nightforce are bringing through. The likes of Ace and Liquid and Hyperphonic Experience have been going for years, but they're writing new music in the old style, and that would probably fit a lot better than, say, any of the modern hardcore guys, because their music, I think, is more in line with EDM than with classic kind of 90s rave scene.
But are they going to get those people through the door, Ollie, do you think? If with the greatest respect in the world, they're not shifting massive units, are they? Though of the new sounding old hardcore, as much as we all like it, is that gonna do numbers on the door? If you see, Pete Cannon, love Pete Cannon, for instance, but if you say Pete Cannon on a bill, that's not going to draw a big crowd, is it?
Is that for me, question?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have any modern music. I wouldn't have any DJs that have not played a Helter Skelter, because that's the only way it will be a Helter Skelter. It's got to be 100% original DJs and MCs. It's got to be music from 91, 92 up to 99. No new remixers, because we all know rave breaks and all the stuff that's been redone and done and beaten to death. I want it to be 100% original music that was played at Helter Skelter, and I want it to be all the DJs and MCs. I went to, as I've told you, I went to Resurrection last year with a few mates, Paul Zygotic, who I'm sure you know. We stayed over, and I thought, it would just be another rave. And we turned up at 3:00 in the afternoon. Paul Elstack was playing in the main arena, and there must have been 10,000 people, and this was 3:00 in the afternoon. And I had no idea it would be like that. We literally walked in, and we couldn't even get further than the back of the arena without squeezing past people, and it was insane. And I was one of the youngest people there. Like, there was people there with res jackets on who'd been going out since 91, 92. They'd been to the first ever res. They were like 60. They had grandkids, and they were coming out for the day, and they were absolutely battered. And everyone had a smile on their face. It was, and that was no new music. That was all the stuff that was played back in the day. They had a second arena with like a mixture of happy hardcore and people like Producer, Scorpio, Loft Groover, and it was just packed all day. It went on. It was an all-dayer, and no trouble, no fighting, just amazing vibes all day. And that's when I realised, I think something like a Resurrection could be done in England. And I think probably Magika's probably gone to Dave Pratley with that and said, look what they did at the Highland. Is it the Highland Centre? In Edinburgh anyway. And I think they've gone and taken that to Dave Pratley and said, look, it can be done, because that was a brilliant day out. And I'm as old and bitter as they come with it. When it comes to music, I'm such a snob. But I walked in there and I was like, wow, this is brilliant. So, well,
Magika said that if it were to be, so he was saying indoor, sort of, you're talking maybe 3,000, and that would be easy. But he could potentially see it going to 10,000 outdoors. Where would you hold it as a promoter, Ollie?
If money was no problem, I'd have it outdoors. I've played at a few things over the last 5 years that would be brilliant for Helter Skelter. I've played at a few HDID summer gatherings, one in Corby in Northamptonshire and one at Castle Donington, where they have Download Festival, and both of them would be spot on for Skelter. It's just fields really, but there's no sound restrictions. It's pretty central for everyone to get to. If money was no object, I'd do it outdoors, but it is a lot easier to do it indoors. It's a lot less hassle with insurance, licensing, security, bar. You've got to do your own bar, etc. So it's whether they want to put the effort in and do something big, or if they just want to say, okay, let's just use a huge venue somewhere in the country and do like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. So it's up to them. But I think the potential to do 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 upwards outdoor, I think it could be done. And that's not just me being a fanboy. I think it could realistically be done.
Paul, we talked to Wally about Res, and that was one that went well, but they are rarity, aren't they? Ones that go really, really well. And is there not a real danger that, well, Res could have fallen on its ass. Is there not a danger to that Helter Skelter, if it does go wrong, as I said to Magika, if it goes wrong, it not only tarnishes Helter Skelter's reputation, but his reputation as well, Dave Pratley's reputation, and that is a real danger, isn't it? We've seen like Dreamscape, what a flop that ended up being. I know it's not strictly the same as Magika said, but there are, it was a big outdoor festival, and it ended up as a total disaster.
Well, it's funny enough that you mentioned that, because it came up on my Facebook memories today. The reunion, the rescue rave that I played at was exactly this day 6 years ago. So it was 6 years ago today that Dreamscape flopped and died on its ass.
Still, you got a booking out of it.
I did, and I'll tell you what, I guarantee the event that happened instead was better than Dreamscape would have been, because it was an amazing little venue. they had awesome Jamaican barbecue food and really cool music. So what more do you want?
Yeah.
You know.
Go on, Paul. Go on.
Sorry,
You're going to finish something. Just finish your sentence. What are you going to say?
But I think, as Magika pointed out, with Dreamscape, it had been passed from pillar to post. But I also went to their reunion they did at the Sanctuary sometime in the mid-2000s, I think.
2002.
And to me, there was nothing special about that night at all. It could have been any event at the Sanctuary. It could have been a slam-in. It could have been anything. There was nothing that set that apart from any other event, in my opinion. So it's whether Skelter can use their brand and their identity to do something that completely sets them apart from, like I say, the plethora of other kind of classic events that have taken place over the years. You know, what will make it different from a moon dance or a rain dance or an innovation or something like that? That's the question, and that'll be interesting to see how they answer that.
Well, a question to Ollie: what was it that set Res apart from everywhere else? What can you put your finger on it?
Well, for me personally, walking into a huge room like that was bigger than a Sanctuary, and hearing Paul Elstak play, well, you just don't get that in the UK anymore. I mean, if I walked in and someone was playing Sweet Harmony, I probably would have gone, oh, you know, I've heard this a million times. But it was the fact that they had Roughneck, Paul Elstak, loads of Dutch and Scottish PAs playing, people that don't really play over here. And Elstak made a name for himself over here by playing at Res. So it was the mixture. It was the right music. It was the right crowd. The sound system was amazing, and you know what UK raves are like. Sometimes it sounds like a hairdryer. It was just, the vibe was just amazing. I mean, from the word go, it was brilliant. Everything, it was just perfect. But if I'd say one thing, it'd probably be the people, because they were just so friendly, and everyone was there because they made the effort to come out. It wasn't just like, with weekly raves, I DJ at a lot of venues where you see the same people every week, and you know, a lot of raves don't really set themselves apart from each other. But if there's one big special thing for someone to look forward to, people are going to make the effort, and it's just going to feel special. So Res was that special day for me, to be honest.
And Paul, I know that you're not a huge fan of these reunion events. I don't know if you've ever been to one, even in the past. You've probably been to one or two. You mentioned the Dreamscape one. Is there anything that Helter Skelter and Dave Pratley and MC Magika could do right now to get you along to this, apart from booking you, obviously?
Well, to be honest, I think, as Ollie pointed out, it should feature a lot of the original Skelter DJs, and unfortunately, I'm not one of those, so it wouldn't be right, I think, to be involved in that sort of capacity. But I think that the difference with what Ollie's saying about Res is that Res had a slightly different identity, in that they did have all these kind of Dutch and foreign DJs they could bring over, which gave them something completely different to anything else you see over here. Whereas with Helter Skelter, most of the DJs that were on those lineups still play out at a lot of events today. If you go to most old school events, a lot of those DJs are featured. So it'd be a case of what they can do that makes it completely different. And the name will sell, I think. There's no doubt about that. Just having the Helter Skelter name on the flyer. If they have a flyer designed by Pez, who kind of did all the artwork back then as well, that would kind of that would make the branding very clear. I'm not sure what would get me out, to be honest. There'd have to be something on that lineup that really made me go, wow, okay, that'll grab me. But I'm not sure what that is, based on kind of the sort of DJs I used to book, because I've seen them all hundreds and hundreds of times.
Well, what about you, Paul? At the moment, it's difficult to know what's going on with coronavirus, but have you got any bookings in at all at the moment, and what form are they coming in? I'm going to go to Ollie and talk to him about it in a minute, because he's just played one that he put on himself, albeit it was to a very, very small number of people. But I'm going to be interested in
the biggest crowd I've played to.
It is in a while. It's the biggest crowd anyone's played to.
Well, yeah.
But Paul, have you got any bookings in? What do you see as the future of as the future of rave at the moment?
I honestly don't know. I think the nightlife scene is completely up in the air at the moment. I mentioned Electroworks earlier, our old venue we use for Relation. I know they're struggling. They're trying to raise some funds at the moment as well. It's really difficult to know where things are going to go right now. You know, we've got a fairly erratic government who will say one thing and then U-turn on it and then U-turn again. In fact, they'd be quite good at dropping rewinds, I would imagine. But yeah, I honestly can't call it. I've got no bookings in the diary at all. I was quite lucky that I actually did play a gig in February, kind of about a month before it all shut down. So I kind of I sort of scratched that itch for a little while, I suppose. But yeah, who knows when things are going to be back to normal, if they are back to normal at all. It's a mess, I think.
Are you missing playing out, and instead of playing out, you're doing more production or anything like
that? Always producing. I work with Nightforce, so I do quite a lot for them. I've just done the biggest remix I've done in my career, which I don't think I can mention who it was for, but it was a nice one to do.
Isn't everyone just remixing Asen?
I couldn't possibly say.
Okay, fine. Well, maybe later.
But yeah, I mean, I did a Twitch stream for a promoter in America back in June or something, but I'm not really set up. I haven't got a webcam or anything like that, so I just kind of blag my way through. I play on Nightforce Radio every Thursday night, so that kind of, again, it scratches the itch. It gives me a little crowd to play through, gives me a reason to go on Beatport and buy some new music every few weeks. So yeah, between that and the producing, it keeps me into the music, but I can't see any gigs coming anytime in the near future.
That's grim. Well, not only does he not have a webcam, this is the first time I think Paul's ever used Zoom. So I'd like to congratulate him on managing to get it on and keeping it on.
Through.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for joining us, mate. Appreciate it.
No worries. Take care.
Top man. And Ollie, I wanted to just finally talk to you because you did play out at the weekend. Tell us about it. It was how many people?
Yes, well, I played at a small venue in Leicester called Boxed. It's like a towny club usually, but it's probably about 200 capacity, and I was allowed to play to 15 people because of social distancing. They had little tables with stools, with hand sanitizer and a drinks menu, and metal barriers around each. I'm sure you've seen pictures on Facebook of various events where everyone's like herded in, but it was good. I mean, all 4 nights have sold out. Not that selling 15 tickets is like Helter Skelter, but it went really well. I just played for 4 hours, didn't stop. Every tune was mixed. I talked on the mic a bit. People were dancing as soon as they walked in. Some people stayed dancing all night until the end, or shouting, screaming, like they hadn't experienced anything like that in 6 months, which most of them haven't, unless you go to an illegal rave. I played for everything from SL2 and Sons of a Loop de Loop era, 90 happy hardcore when it just started to turn into UK hardcore, and I've tried to do it in chronological order because I'm a music geek. So I went from section to section. I planned it all in record box. I had about 300 tunes on me, probably played about 180, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was good, and I'm doing another one this Friday and the next 2 Fridays. So.
And how did this come about?
The guy who runs Boxed in Leicester is a guy called Mark Pantlin, and he gave me my first ever hardcore booking in 2002. I've been DJing since 98 properly, and I played drum and bass for Simon Bassline Smith for a bit, and then I got more into UK hardcore, and he gave me my first ever gig in Leicester. It was actually an Elation night that Ponder kicked off about because they used the Elation name without telling him. So it was like billed as Elation, but it wasn't. So I've kept in touch with him. I did a 7-hour solo set a few years ago at his old venue where I had WizKid and a few other MCs. I did like 7 hours, history of happy hardcore. So he just said, I can use the venue for live streaming and a small crowd. So if you want to do something, let me know. So he's charging me hardly anything to hire the club. He makes money on the bar. I sell tickets. I'll make a bit of cash. You know, everyone's happy. So it gets me back to some kind of normality with DJing, because this is all I've done really for the last probably 18 years, like semi-professionally.
And how's Boxed getting on in terms of venue? You know, we heard.
Well, he's started a new business doing dessert, like selling desserts, like Uber Eats and Just Eat dessert things, because he was struggling really bad. He couldn't apply for the government grant that they were giving out to you have to meet certain criteria, and he didn't meet it, so he was struggling for a bit. But he's like me, he's a businessman, so he put his thinking cap on and said, right, how else can we make money? So he's doing all right now. But it was good to see him Friday.
And in terms of the future, you're doing this 3 more times.
Yes.
Is this, in your mind, the sort of area in which we're going to have to move?
Really hope not. No. Because, it's nice to play to people, but when you're playing in a massive club to 15 people, I mean, to be fair, about 5 minutes after I started, people were jumping around and hugging each other, and because a few of them knew each other. I don't think people are taking this coronavirus as seriously as the government would like you to think. I stopped social distancing months ago. I'm not. I'm a fit, healthy person with an immune system. If I get it, I'm sure I'll be fine. So, that all went out the window after 5 minutes of me starting my set. But I really hope it's not the future of raves, because it's totally different. Like table service at a rave and sitting down. I've seen lots of people sitting down at raves, and I'm getting on in my years, but I still I danced all day at Res. Like from the minute I got there to the minute I left, I was up on my feet dancing, and I really hope that we get back to some kind of normality either end of this year or start of next year. I'm hearing different things from different people about when to expect raves to happen again. Like the guy I used for my events, Chapel of Chaos in Birmingham, he's been told it'll be at least March or April before he can do anything proper. So it's just a question of time, really. But the more it goes on, the more illegal parties there'll be, the more people kicking down warehouse doors there'll be, and the government have only got themselves to blame, because the whole thing is just a total scam in my eyes. Not that I'm a conspiracy theorist, but I think there's definitely a control element to it, and everyone's sitting at home behaving themselves. That's what the government want.
Well, I mean, we know that the government tried to kill rave music in the 90s, and this is a chance for them to just be inert, and they can do it again just by being inert. Whether or not that is actually happening or not, I don't know. But I suspect more likely it's right at the bottom of their. Oh, well,
you can see it. Everything.
Their priority list.
Yeah, everything's already back open. You can go to the pub. You can sit next to someone you've never met before, but you can't go to a club. It's preposterous, really. But
and are you getting any bookings coming in? Sort of.
Yeah.
Are they booking like next year, for instance?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I played my last gig on the 7th of March in London, and then I had probably three gigs a month all the way through to now. They've all been either cancelled or moved to next year. So I'm waiting to see what happens with them. But I did have a big gig at Pandemonium in Amsterdam planned for end of November, which I played for them, made my debut last year, and I'm on their agency and stuff. And it's a really big event, like 12,000 people. I was really buzzing for it. And then the Dutch government are even worse than the English government. They've closed down everything. They're arresting people on the streets. They're proper Nazi state, the police. So I don't think that'll happen this year.
Well, their health minister said in May, I think it was, that there will be no big events until a vaccine's found. That may well not ever be found, and so you do wonder whether that things might have to change at some point.
Yeah,
but it's pretty big talk.
But Dutch festivals, they provide so much money to the government in Holland. I can't see, it's cutting off your nose to spite your face, really, because their rave culture is a million times bigger than ours has ever been. It's just part of the society over there. So apart from hardcore events, they've got DEF CON, which is like 60,000 people. You've got to be thinking there's millions of euros being spent at those events, all going to Dutch people. It's keeping the rave culture going over there, and I think getting rid of these big events it's not going to end well over there either.
No, it's not. That's a sad, uncheery note to end this podcast.
I think I'm hoping that by spring next year there'll be, it'll get all relaxed and we can start going out again. I think for the sake of a lot of people have gone mad over the last 6 months. Like people go out every week, and if you stop them going out, a lot of people go out to escape it and to have a good time and see their friends and let off steam. You can't take that away from people. So I think next few months, I think we'll see something happening.
Well, fingers crossed, Ollie, and for all of us, but for you as well as a promoter and a DJ. I hope you get back playing and not just to 15,
let's hope.
not just to 15 people. But good luck with the rest of those nights, mate. Well, that's it from this week's edition of R.O.A.R. We hope you've enjoyed tuning in. If you want to give us a hand to create more and better 90s rave-related content while getting shouts on future episodes and getting your hands on some artwork designed exclusively for us by Grant Us Arts, you can do so by heading to gofundme.com/the 90s Rave Podcast. Just a few quid will help, anything at all, frankly, but it would go a long way to helping us keep this thing going. That address again, gofundme.com/the 90s Rave Podcast, and we'll see you all next week.